How's it going, folks? Nick here with the Permaculture vlog. Otto, my co-star, is behind me, and Garden Cat, and yeah, we're out here this morning, and I'm gonna basically just do a garden update. It's been a while since I've done one of those. Just kind of show you guys what's going on in the garden, especially after the tropical storm, how things fared, etc. So, just gonna kind of do a deep dive into the garden update today. Of course, checking with the chickens, etc. And yeah, so without further ado, let's get started. Here's Otto on his rock. Good kitty. Ooh. He's won lots of love this morning. Lots of love and play this morning. So checking on our rain gauge here. You can see I attached it now so it actually sits somewhere. And you can see since the hurricane we have not had much at all. That's less than 0.1 of an inch. So I actually might consider watering this morning real quick. I'm just going to check the soil moisture while we're there. We'll do that when we do the garden check-in. So yeah, it's has not been raining much, but it's just we had so much rain that I like to, you know, give it a few days at least before I actually water again, because I want to let all that water actually process and also make all the root systems want to go deep enough to get all the water that's down there, especially new growth. See if I can show you guys something without disturbing it too much. There's all these branches in here from the moringa tree that fell, and Mama is just sitting perched on them with her two chicks down here. I'll see if I can just zoom in so they don't move while I get close to them. Look at that, so adorable. You can see the chicks are starting to get kind of fat and more like actual chickens, so they're growing up well. But I guess they're loving that little perch, so that's good. Actually, I've been meaning to put a perch in here for them for a while, so I mean that's pretty good. It's good to see that they're happy on it, and just throwing a log down works just fine. You can see all the compost from the storm. It was protected by a tarp, and then I just kind of repiled it and was protected by a tarp, and it's doing quite well here. Still quite happy. I could definitely use that still. Yep, still smells just like forest floor. It doesn't smell bad or anything, so it didn't get too wet. You can see Henry's just along the way. He wants to join in the party, but these guys still have yet to really welcome him/her in. Welcome Henry in. So still across the fence in his own little world. And you can see he's still kind of scared of the group in here. And that's a warranted scare because they're not very good at welcoming him. So I'm going to get the chicken food all set, and then we'll continue on with the garden tour. Here's Henry, his side of things. I have a suspicion I need to deal with his water and food. Lots of food for you, look at that. All right, fresh food, fresh water for Henry. So he should be quite happy. Looks like he was a little bit hungry. So he just starts picking through there though. He prefers the soaked feed, so I might want to add a little bit of water to his. All right, chickens are done, so let's move on to the garden update. So since we're here, oh hey Otto, he wants to be part of it, I guess. Good boy. We have a couple downed sugar canes, I guess is what they be called. Each individual cane. You can see I still have these chairs here I haven't put away yet. They just kind of got shoved back here for the storm, so they're kind of in a little secluded area. But yeah, a couple of sugar canes down, but that's not too bad. We don't really worry. The reason I really have them is for a windbreak, and a couple of them blew over and helped break the wind. So that's exactly what I wanted from them. Let's see, the tomatoes here. These guys are doing all right. I covered these up for the storm. If you didn't see my kind of prep for the storm video, I'll leave that linked above. You'll get a little bit of an idea of how things looked right before we went into this tropical storm. And don't worry, we're all fine, so it's okay. But yeah, we did have a little bit of a tropical storm recently, and we had to take a little bit of precautions and a little bit of prep. So this tomato bed I actually covered up with some shade cloth just to give a little bit of protection from all that rain, because tomatoes don't love that rain. Check out this lizard here, checking out the tomato area. He's probably eating all the extra insects that I don't want, so thanks, lizard. But yeah, this tomatoes are still producing. You can see here we have a bunch of little kind of cherry chocolate pear varieties. They're coming on pretty strong. We do have a couple Romas actually just sitting on, hanging on. These guys don't look great at this point. They look kind of sad, but there is new growth. There is new flowers coming on. So I'm just kind of letting these guys go until they stop producing, because I don't see a reason why not to. And they've been producing for quite some time, past many of those those deadlines where I'm like, yeah, we're done. There's no way we're getting any more. And they just keep going. So I'm very happy with these two varieties. And I actually kind of forget. The chocolate pear was the cherry style, and the other one was some sort of Roma. I just can't remember what kind of Roma it was. On this side of the tomato bed, we have Otto, of course, hanging out here. Look at his little tail going. That's one of my favorite things he does. We have all these peppers. I need to stake these up so they actually grow upwards and not down into the ground here. But these are the peppers I originally had, and then I actually transplanted a bunch of them over to this bed, and we'll get there in just a second. But these guys are still growing actually quite well, and I think I just saw a flower. Look at a couple flower buds coming on right in here. So we might actually get some bell peppers from these after all. And they started really booming after I added compost and kind of opened up a little bit of light here. I opened up, I did a little bit more of the pruning of the tomatoes, so I just had a little bit more light hitting down to the ground here. But since I did that compost ad and remulch and everything, they've been giving me some nice dark green growth. So I think they're pretty happy, and they might actually produce for us. Up here, this is the upper bed, and look at that, we're starting to get our first actual orange bell peppers. Very excited for this one right here. That's going to be a good one, I think. And there is actually another one on this plant right here, starting to be orange. So yeah, these are supposed to be an orange bell pepper. You can't eat them green, so it's also a green pepper, but I've been waiting for that orange because I really wanted to taste what that was like. We had I seeded a bunch of little baby arugulas, and they for a long time were not doing well at all. They were pretty sad. But of late, I've noticed once I added more compost in here, and I also opened up a whole bunch of light. So I took down a whole bunch of these banana leaves up here, and also some of these papaya leaves on these two trees. So there's still, a little bit of high shade to help protect them in that middle of the day, but not so much. There's a lot of banana leaves coming this way, and I actually took down, I think, a whole banana stalk. Oh, but that was over there, so we'll talk about that in a minute. So yeah, this area is going to get much more light now, and I noticed right after I did that, I added compost and I opened up the light, and look at all that really fresh growth on the arugulas back here that have been growing for a while. So that's really good to see. And these guys actually started to put out fresh growth too. So I'm guessing they just need a little bit more sun, and these guys are starting to take the true arugula shape, but they're just so tiny. So we'll see where they get. We don't know if they're going to actually produce huge amounts for us, but that's okay. Wow, I didn't even see this little guy on this one. Look at that, we have a whole nother one on this plant. That's good to know. So yeah, this is pretty happy with this bed up here so far. This place was just like a greens and then on the edge of pepper, and that's exactly what we're getting. Our flower bed over here kind of got disheveled a little bit because of the storm. It all got kind of blown over, but you can see over here they're still producing really beautiful flowers, these zinnias. And there's a bunch of new buds coming on, and there are actually just a new bud coming on here, but this one just fell over right onto this bed, and despite having a couple flowers on it, it's just in the way, so I'm gonna have to cut that back because I don't really want to bother this bed. So I'm just leaning against the papaya now, so it's not right on the ground down here. So this bed had the New Zealand spinach, and when I did that cleanup, I basically ripped it all out, and I did a big garden bed reset video as well, so I'll leave that linked above if you didn't see that one. I think it's different than the prepping for the storm one, so yeah, I'll leave that one linked above too here. But in that video, I actually seeded, I prepped this whole bed, I added compost, I aerated it, added compost, and then actually seeded arugula, and you can see all these baby arugulas. You can see I left the seed packet there to remind myself, because sometimes I forget. And all these arugulas are starting to pop up right in between all these banana trunk pieces that I threw down. So that's really cool to see. And I think up here I seeded a bunch of lettuce, and I also threw some loofah, which is a vining, in the showers you get like a loofah. Usually right now they're mostly produced as, you know, just like a man-made something or other, whatever they make it of. But the original ones were actually made from plants, from the loofah plant. So I threw a bunch of those seeds down here to see if they would start, they would germinate and then grow up the fence line here. And then we can start growing loofah along the fence line. It also makes a flower that the bees love. So it's something I wanted to have growing anyway. So yeah, that's going to start here. Here's the comfrey, and it's been flowering, you can see here. And the bees love this flower. So that's really cool to see. And I might just cut this back because it'll just keep growing and growing, but when it flowers, it kind of stops producing all the leafy growth. So I might cut it back down here. You can see there's new leafy growth coming out right there. I also might dig it up and separate the roots a little bit and then make more comfrey plants, because with comfrey it basically makes like a root kind of like a ginger almost, or like it's not really like a ginger, it's more like a dandelion root where it's kind of deep, and you can actually break it off. It snaps apart, and you can just take small little pieces of that root, shove it in the ground somewhere where you want it to grow, and it'll just produce a new comfrey for you. So really easy to do, really easy to propagate and move around for you. If you can find a couple pieces that have a leaf growing out of it first and you break that off, it's just gonna go much faster. So yeah, this upper bed, pretty happy with it. I actually just noticed that these plantains are yellowing, so they're ready. I need to take these down, so I might do that tomorrow or maybe later today. I'm not going to do it this morning because I don't have time. I need to keep moving with my day, but it's good to note that those are ready. I just saw that, so that means we're going to lose this entire tree because bananas and plantains only produce one fruit per tree, and then you cut them down and they shoot up a new one, and then they produce another rack on a different tree, and then it just keeps repeating and repeating. So the management for bananas and plantains are basically let them grow, cut them down, let them grow again, cut them down. You just keep going over and over and over again. Look at these chives right here. These guys are doing really well. These garlic chives, pretty happy with those. We do have some regular chives in here too. They just seem to be doing not as well as the garlic chives. But I'm happy to see these guys going because we want to have these just as a regular cut and come again crop for us. I had these beans a while back when I thought that everything else in here was going to be dying, and it still haven't, but these guys are now flowering, and hopefully we'll be producing some green beans for us. Look at that, a bunch of little baby green beans on there, so that's exciting. And this is not going to be enough really to, you know, provide us with all the kind of green beans we would ever need, but it's just some that I just threw down here from seeds that we had growing from another plant, and they're growing, so that's exactly what we're looking for here. You can see that this bed started to produce turmeric at last. This is turmeric, and this is the canna lily. So they are slightly different. This one kind of has a more pointed tip, I'm noticing, and the veins kind of go more upwards. The veins here go more outwards. I don't know if you can notice the difference there. It's somewhat hard. They're in the same exact family, so it's kind of hard to tell them apart when you don't really know. But we're starting to get lots of turmeric growing here. There's one over here too. So, and this is my original plan. So I actually put in turmeric here while the canna lily was still growing, knowing that they're in the same family, so they're likely going to like the same kind of places. So I threw a bunch of just small turmeric pieces down here and waited and waited, and I thought they were never going to come up, and I was like, oh, well, that's all right, I'll get some more turmeric again some other time. But now they are starting to produce like crazy. So it just took a long time for those rhizomes to get established in the ground, and now they're shooting up. So really excited to see that, especially during hurricane season, because it's a root crop. So it'll just be just fine if we get hurricanes. Might be a little slow down a little bit with all its leaves gone, but it will not die. So that's nice. So I have these jalapenos, and I have gotten a few jalapenos off of them, but not many. So I think they just don't have enough light here. I don't think they're super happy. I thought I saw there's some flowers on still, so we might get some more. But I just need to get one of the local varieties because my buddy Jeff has jalapenos growing in his garden that he got locally, and they're going like crazy. So I just need to find a local variety. It's one of those things. On this side we have these zucchinis that we put over here that we thought were just going to be kind of too shocked because they were in the greenhouse too long, but they're actually starting to flower and everything, yet to produce any fruit. So we'll kind of see where they go, but so far they're just kind of growing and doing just fine. This bit over here are melon experiments with this little trellis that I built for it. On the rest of this is actually for all that hurricane prep that in that video I already linked. So if you want to see why we have all these random PVC pieces up, you can check out that video. But yeah, the melon, it's growing still. It did have a couple little babies on it, but they just never took it all. So, but this pepper plant, you can see, anytime I'm out here, there's usually peppers for me to pick, which is pretty cool. Nice red peppers, Thai chili peppers, and I don't really have to do anything to make these things keep going. I did add compost in here, so they are freshly composted, so they're probably got a little happy boost with that. But yeah, look at all that. I just took a quick little harvest of peppers there, and I have all these kind of nice hot chili peppers. And I love spicy foods, so it's so nice to just have peppers growing. And I literally, since I put these guys in, I've done almost nothing except add compost and occasionally cut them back when they're looking a little sad. This one over here seems a little sad since the hurricane. I don't know if it just got too much water or what, but it does not seem like it's gonna make it. But this one here, you can see the difference there. Sad, a little yellowing. This one really happy, nice fresh growth. These guys were planted at the same time, have been producing the exact same amount, but this one looks like maybe it won't make it. So I might just give this guy a hard prune and see if it comes back. Then it might just be that this is the one that we keep. Calendula, we actually have some growing despite the kind of hot tropical climate. We had a couple flowers right around when the hurricane came through, or the tropical storm came through. So have yet to actually harvest any of the flowers for medicinal use. I really wanted to let them get through a couple flower cycles, but you can see here that's the bud there. I don't see any. The seeds are still kind of forming, if they're going to form at all. Let's see. There's this one here. Oh yeah, look at that. Let's pull this one off. Let's see if we can't get any. Don't see, yeah, there might be a couple seeds on there that are viable. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll just throw that right down in there, and then we'll see if anything comes up. Because it didn't look like there's really that many seeds, but there might be something there. The zucchini down here still is yet to produce, so I think I'm going to end up taking these out because these guys are not, they're just not producing. They get things on, and then they get this kind of blossom end rot, and I think that's mainly because of pollination. But we have so many pollinators here that I have a feeling it's just not really well adapted to our climate. I could try hand pollinating first and see if that helps, but I just don't want to do that personally. I'm just too lazy to do that, so I'm not going to end up doing that. So these guys are probably going to come out, and we'll replace them with something else. But I might just let them be there for a little bit longer. We are kind of in hurricane season, so it's kind of a weird time to start new things. We kind of really want to wait for essentially October. I'll start getting everything prepped to go probably in September, maybe start seeds and everything in September, and then start transplanting and do another big kind of bed reset come October, once the real peak of hurricane season is over. So a while back I took out these cucumbers, but yeah, and the one that I left, it's not producing at all. So pretty much our cucumber spree is done. Our cucumbers tend to only seem to produce for a couple weeks, so it might just be the strain, might be a bad one. I did get some local seeds, so we'll try that next. Hopefully that'll give us a little bit more production. But in this bed, what I did is when I reset it, aerated it, and then added compost and mulch, then I took cuttings from the sweet potatoes right up there, all the stuff that was basically hanging out over the pathway. It kind of grows out into the path, and on that path I took cuttings where they had small little roots, and I just shoved them into the ground down here. So now all this area is going to become sweet potatoes, and they're actually all taking. Every one of the vines that I shoved in here, every one of them are taking quite well. So this is just going to be a brand new sweet potato bed. And what I did is I did really long cuttings, and the entire cutting length I put into the ground, so that we have a nice long strip where roots are going to go down and hopefully produce sweet potatoes for us. So that worked really well for us here. And yeah, this should all be sweet potato. It'll end up taking over just like up here. Speaking of which, sweet potatoes up here, they still have not yet flowered, so I'm still kind of waiting for them to flower to officially say that they're ready. But I did see in here the other day a couple of little roots, a couple little potatoes sticking up. I forget where it was to give you a really good kind of picture of it, but there's a couple places where they're starting to show that they are actually pretty much ready to come out, or at least some of them are. All right, I finally found it. See right there? That's the tip of a sweet potato right there coming off, that's ready for harvest, or pretty much ready for harvest. I can see that That's the one I kept on harvesting the leaves from, actually too much so, because it ended up kind of dying back, or the leaves died back, but it still produced. You can see it's still growing. It's still growing some vines in here, but yeah, there it is right there. So that one's pretty much ready. We could easily harvest that right now, which is pretty cool. And I think that's the one that's actually the one that has the separated leaves right there, instead of this kind that's kind of more morning glory like. It's more this kind over here that has that kind of more separated leaf structure. So that's the kind that was ready. And I remember that because I looked down after I harvested a bunch to transplant. I was like, oh no, there's no more leaves. So I may have kind of stunted that one a little bit. Sorry, guy. Once they flower, they're going to be essentially ready. But I think at this point we could probably harvest sweet potatoes from them. But I'm going to wait, because this is essentially going to be our hurricane crop. If we do have a major hurricane come through, and we lose, access downtown, and we can't actually get down to gather food or anything like that, this is going to be a kind of a backup for us. So that's why this sweet potato garden is here. We want to have it ready for hurricane season. Root crops that stay in the ground that are not going to be harmed by the wind blowing up here. Here's the turmeric from the other side. This guy, huge one. There's a couple smaller ones coming off. This is probably maybe the same root, or really close to the same root. You can see there's a small one on top of this big one here. And there is also a turmeric, I believe, right over here. Much smaller than the other ones, but there is one right over here too. So we should have a nice turmeric harvest in the somewhat near future. That'll be exciting. We did harvest a bunch of coconuts right before the storm. We brought all the coconuts down. They're actually just sitting down here, so I actually need to move these up so that we remember to actually harvest them. So there's a bunch right there. There's some more down here, and there's a whole bunch of them right down there. So we have plenty of coconuts to get through and harvest. And I mainly took them down because of the storm, but they were pretty much ready anyway. And last but not least, down here we have the two plantain trees, which are just doing so well. They're very happy down here, and they are hopefully going to be producing for us. It'll probably still take another 6 to 8 months before we're actually going to get a harvest from them, but they're growing very, very rapidly, and that's really good to see. We do have this calabaza, this pumpkin that was volunteered and came across from the other garden, and I basically just restrung it up, so it's kind of growing along the fence line here, and it's growing all the way to over there. Even it's over there. So we'll see if this produces anything. I was told by Angel, who's a local guy here, that they'll produce the male flowers first, and then later they'll produce the female flower, which is true of a lot of crops. I thought my understanding was it was actually there's a male and female plant. So we'll see. I'm just gonna watch it, and if we get a harvest from it, that's awesome. Like, I'd be happy with that. So I'm certainly not gonna. I think Angel would know, because he's lived here and grown them a lot. So I think he would know. So I'm gonna trust his judgment on that, and we'll just wait and see what we get, and hopefully we'll get a harvest sometime soon. All right, so that's the garden update, guys. That's it for me. There's a couple more things just up top here, just the basics. You can see the katuk is really doing quite well over there. I do need to clean up this whole upper slope here. To be completely frank, I've been quite lazy back here recently. I've not been coming out as much as I have. I've just been kind of tired and trying to deal with a whole bunch of other things, plus the hurricane coming through, etc. So yeah, just a lot of stuff going on. So I haven't spent as much time as I'd like to back here, but I'm hopefully going to be starting that up again soon, getting out here a little bit more. That's my goal. And yeah, that's it. So yeah, that's it for me today. If you do like what I'm doing, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps me get more reach and have that motivation to keep going. I think I'm up to 160 subscribers now, which is really exciting to me. Next goal is 200. If you're watching any of the videos before, I keep saying almost at 100, almost at 100. Well, now I'm well past 100, 160. We're going for 200 now. So going to 200. All right. And yeah, so that's it for me. And hope you all enjoyed. Until next time, have a good one. Mama.